Hello, welcome back to BSLIVE. In this episode, I'm experimenting with plasticity and the way we can kind of mess up the topology of geometry. This is one of the example that we are going to be creating. So let's get started. We won't be using box today. We're just gonna be using a sphere. So I'm just gonna draw a sphere. And we're just gonna draw another sphere on top of this big sphere. So I'm just gonna click and draw another one. So by default it's gonna do like a boolean operations. In this case we want to type Q and then union, so we have like a bubble. The interesting thing is that they are connected, so I'm just gonna draw a couple. Okay, let's save this very quickly. Just name it whatever. So this in itself is already kind of interesting. You can do like a blend and then, you know, control click. So it's like a meta ball. And let's mess up a little bit with this geometry. We know, okay, with a spline in plasticity, you can draw a spline and then you can turn it into a cutter, right? And the spline is sometimes it's a little bit crazy in terms of when you draw and you right click, yeah. But anyhow, you draw a curve from this plane, from viewing plane, and you can do a C, cut geometry. Oh, it's failed. Okay, let's draw it again. I think the curve is a little bit weird in plasticity. When you draw, if you can actually hit tab and then get a better control on the curve. So I just want to do like a cut in the middle, and then you draw the curve and then you tap C, cut this object. Maybe it doesn't like my cut. Yeah. It's a little bit strange. Okay, let's try doing this again. Okay, just doesn't like my curve. So another way to do this is just to draw the curve on top of this guy. Maybe turn off the X-ray. Draw the curve, hit tab. And this time we're just gonna turn it into knife using K. There's a hotkey is K there, like, and then our lines become yellow. Right click. Now we did it. We made a cut. Okay, and then after you do that, since it is like a sphere, we need to have another spline that goes to the other side. Just want to make a cut. K, right click. So we did make a cut. And now if you want to make a like this, we want to mess up with this shell, for example. So I think we can use explode shells. I like this operations. It's basically separating all the shells. And since plasticity is actually like a NURBS surfaces and using parasolid, now everything is a shell. After we explode every shell, we can start doing this. select a shell, and then D. I think D works. Oh well, we need to. Okay, this curve, for example, it's not connected to anything. We can draw the curve, or we can just F and then extend the edge. It's gonna try to extend it and make a cut. Now we can do this push and pull. The interesting thing is that because this guy is being cut properly, we can just push it and it's seems like a solid. Let's do this again. Yeah. Okay. See, it's kind of interesting the way plasticity works, because it's not like a polygon, because it's like a sheet of objects. We can just push and pull. And then another operation that I like is to thicken the sheet. In Blender, that will be like solidify. If I like this, I just right click and add to favorites. So next time I select, I can just thicken the sheet. F, thicken. There you go, you know. Like I said, this is we're just gonna mess up with the topology of these objects. Basically creating like a shell. I used to do this something like this in Blender. I'm just trying to do this procedurally. I kind of like the topology of objects like this. Okay, this extend. Let's do the extend and then add to favorites. So whenever I select curve now, F, extend. Now we have like a cut. See, that's the interesting thing about plasticity. If you do the proper cut, you get this kind of thickness. Some of the objects already become solid. If it's like a piece of sheet of object like this, it's not complete until you turn it into solid. So this one is sheet. So maybe I'm just selecting random sheet and then thicken the area. You can thicken in or out, it doesn't matter. Basically it's gonna be a solid object in the end. Delete. So yeah, if we want to play around with this, imagine you're like a snail on top of this surface, and then you're using spline curve, and then you want to just randomly walk. I recommend you to hit tab after you draw your curve and then start walking, and then K to make a cut. So this is I really like this ability in plasticity. It's really weird thing to do, but you can perhaps do similar thing in Blender using knife. It's just because we are doing it inside plasticity and the surface is NURBS, we can actually more easily selecting the area. Yeah, and then you just keep doing it. Okay, let's try cut this area. If I'm not wrong, you can just do this. And then K, right click, and it's gonna try to make a cut. And whenever you find the edge and you wanna make it rounded or bevel it, I think I prefer the bevel. It's easier for plasticity. If you do a bevel, it's easier to calculate, I guess. Just hit tab, right click. Okay, this one failed. Oh, I forgot to tap the hotkey K, right click. Now we have a cut. So we making like a shell. It's a, if we are doing this procedurally using a single operations, we probably use the Voronoi cutter. Yeah, this is what I'm trying to show you. You can try to make like a cut using knife, I don't know. So you draw a curve and then you select an C for cut, and then you select an object and right click. It doesn't work. Maybe it's easier with a line. This is a line curve. C, select an object, cut. Yeah, fails. I don't know why. Let's try again. C, select. Okay, it doesn't like the cut. Maybe it's a bug. Maybe it's a bug or too complicated. Let's just do this manually. K, right click. Now we have another cut. So we are breaking these solid objects now. Yes, and then just trying to push and pull. It's a little bit like the design of Sydney Opera House in Australia. You start with a sphere and then you cut the sphere into half and then you make a few cuts. It's not this complicated, but it's kind of similar ideas, and you end up with shells and then you rearrange the shell. If I select everything and then Q again, can I join anything? No. Maybe it's too random. Maybe let me try file, save as obj desktop, shells, quad and gone. Could be a quad. I think quad should work as well. Bring it into Blender. Okay, what is this? Oh, Oh, it's the AI and the okay, I forgot I was doing that in the background. Let's try open Blender, file, import, obj. A bunch of shells in Blender. At least you know you can join all of them, which is really weird. And then we can just remesh. The power of Blender remesh. Yep, pretty cool. Because now it's a polygon. It's a little bit messy. Let's try sculpt. Cloth filter. Inflate. Yeah. We make like some kind of cocoon based on whatever we created inside Plasticity. Yeah, it's a random sculpture, but it's a I found it interesting anyway, so I want to show you. So yeah, let's save this. So the basic idea is really if you have a sphere and then supposedly if you just draw a curve like this, C and then select the object, it should cut it. This should work. You see, this one works. So if we have another spline curve, and as long the curve is not too crazy, right click, C, object. So we made another cut, and we can push and pull. So this time it's actually like a solid, and we can keep making a cut. Let's draw another curve. Tab, right click, C, select an object. Yeah, I don't know why the cut is not planar. We can always imprint, Shift I, imprint. So imprinting the curve, Shift I, Shift I. Yeah, I don't know. The cut is not exactly how I want it. F, extend. So this is kind of the idea. Just you made a cut, and then push and pull, because it's still like a parametric. F, extend. Doesn't always work. There we go. And you can always smooth the area, which is something I like. Select all, Q, try to combine everything into a single object, and you can still push and pull. So we have this kind of geometry that's pretty complex. Shell sphere. But if you bring it to Blender anyway, you can make it like a balloon like this. Right? It's pretty cool surface. Because of the topology underneath is pretty unusual. But your app can handle it anyway. Blender and Sculpt and Plasticity. Alright, so there you go. Hopefully you find this useful. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.